What's up, hockey fans? Happy Tuesday, yeah? And welcome to the Odd Man Rush, brought to you by Prize Picks and coming to you live on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. My name is David Zwark. I'm the host. I cover the Panthers for Local 10 here in South Florida and for 5 Reasons. And how are you guys feeling today? Big overtime win last night in DC. The comeback Cats make a comeback for the first time in the playoffs. They were down twice, came back twice in regulation, got the big game-tying goal by Sam Reinhart late in the third period with Bob on the bench, and then a quick overtime, just like last year in the Lombard game. Credit to the Panthers for not putting the fan base through too much through the ringer as they get the job done in overtime. Carter Verhaeghe, Swaggy, Snipey, Swagoo, whatever you want to call him. His second goal of the game coming up absolutely huge for the Panthers and giving them the big 3-2 win, tying up the series, coming back now for a best 2 out of 3 with 2 games at home. You got to feel good about that if you are a follower of the Florida Panthers. And really, their best game of the series, I think by far, in terms of the way they controlled the pace, the way they really dominated 5-on-5. Just a great sign. You have to think, as they've talked a lot about being nervous and being apprehensive and not quite getting to where they want to be, whether it was a work ethic thing or, there was just excuses and little nagging things. And it was nice to see them kind of overcome all that in a really big way and in a big spot, because, that's the kind of situation that I always like to look for when it comes to analyzing and trying to break down not just the team, but the players. Those big testy moments, like, yes, they're scary sometimes, when you got a big game against Toronto or Tampa in the regular season or what have you, coming off an injury. But it's at those times that you really get to see what the team is made of. And that was a great example last night for the Panthers because it, wasn't do or die, but going behind 3-1 it would not have ended well. So let's get into it all. I'm going to bring on my guest today. Obviously know him if you're watching the show. He is the Panthers radio voice or radio color analyst. He is an amazing analyst on the NHL Network, and he also scored the biggest goal in franchise history. I'm sure Billy, as Bill Lindsay joins me on the show today, I'm sure Billy will be the first guy to say that he hopes that another goal replaces it sometime in the not too distant future as the biggest goal in franchise history. But for now, my friend, the belt still belongs to you. So thank you for joining the show. I hope you're doing well today.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I hope that changes. It's been a long time. There's fans that don't even remember that. You got to be pretty well up there in the age category to remember when I scored that goal. So this Panther team, I'd love to see them win a Stanley Cup and have some heroes along the way. We had a hero last evening in Carter Verhaeghe in overtime. That was a critical win. Heard you talking about it a little bit, but that was not a must win, but very important for the Panthers. Come back home now. You got best of 3 series and you have home ice advantage. So a lot of good things for the Panthers. They still got some areas that they need to clean up, and you got to give a lot of credit to the Washington Capitals and the way that they've played this series. It's been tight checking. It's been physical back and forth on both sides. Sergei Bobrovsky, the one question coming in for the Panthers was maybe the goaltending, but Sergei Bobrovsky has been phenomenal in net. He's been one of the big reasons the Panthers are squared up at 2 in this series. So we'll see what shakes out here when we get home on game number 5, but it's been entertaining so far through the first 4 games.
Yeah, it's really been a strange series, just in the ebbs and flows, the ways that the games have gone. Because before last night, we hadn't really seen the Panthers team that we saw for pretty much the entire regular season, a team that controlled the pace of play, controlled 5-on-5, dominated puck possession. But last night, finally in the series, we saw the Panthers kind of get back to doing what they did well all season. What do you think contributed to that, Billy, that they were able to get back to their game and finally look like the Panthers we were expecting in the playoffs?
They kind of got back to what Washington was doing to them. They were forcing the games in the first 3 games. To me, they were kind of forcing the issue, getting frustrated. In game number 4, they realized what Washington was giving them. They created a forecheck, generated some cycle chances. then forced the Capitals into some turnovers. That was a critical turnover by Connor McMichael in overtime. That allowed the Panthers to go the other way on the rush. And this Panther team is very dangerous off the rush. But it was, to me, it was a more patient style. They were able to wear down the Capitals with that puck possession and stick with it, even though they were down 2-1. The scoring chances were there. They were continuing to generate, and because they were down in the game 2-1, they didn't venture away from their game plan. They didn't start to create turnovers and force the play, push the puck up, and get into mistakes. They avoided the mistakes, and Andrew Burnett, with the coach, he's very aggressive. Gets the goaltender out early at the 3-minute mark. Shows you the belief that he has in this squad when they're able to get out there. They did get a little bit lucky on that empty net try where it just missed by a little bit, but that's the game. There was a big ginormous save on Bobrovsky on Johansson there too, late before the Panthers tied it up. But they rolled it out there, and Andrew Burnett gets it out there in the 6-on-5. They've been very good in that situation all season long. Reinhart was able to bat the puck out of midair, score the goal, and then get the overtime win. And that's kind of the playoffs in a nutshell. The margin for error is so slim, especially in this series. It's just minute. The one mistake, the one way or another, and it could be you end up winning a game or not. But for the Panthers, that was the most complete game of the series from start to finish. Only 17 or 16 shots on net against Bobrovsky. You were able to have the puck possession, so they're getting back to more of the style that they like to play.
Yeah, you touched on it right there. Just giving up the 16 shots on goal, despite the Capitals having 5 power plays. That kind of jumped out at me. Just because the special teams has been such a prevalent issue throughout the first 4 games. But outshooting the Capitals 26-11 at even strength, that's going to be such a big key for the Panthers moving forward, is staying out of the penalty box, something that they really have had a hard time doing in the first 4 games.
Yeah, that's been an issue. If you watched the game yesterday, if you're a fan of power plays, that was not a game for you. The penalty killing, even though Washington did get 1 power play goal, and that's an area the Panthers have to address. There's going to be some moment or some point in this series that the power play is going to have to come through for the Panthers at a critical time. And they got their chances early on and weren't able to capitalize, and that really allowed Washington to hang around in that game. So they're gonna have to be able to clean that up. But the penalty killing group did a good job. We're able to stifle the Capitals in a number of ways. You talked about discipline. You saw it in the last 20 games of the regular season. There was some bad penalties, really bad, that started to creep in the Panthers game. Just unnecessary penalties that you just didn't need to take. That started on that West Coast trip. When they went out west, they took some really bad penalties. They started barking at the refs. They started getting penalties for that, and it started to creep into this playoff series. So that's got to get out of their DNA. They got to be able to eliminate that. This Panther team, they want to play between the whistles, drop the puck, and play this game as fast as possible. Speed it up. The Capitals want to drag it down into the mud and just try and slow it up as much as possible, and that's where the Panthers, you got to be able to just skate through it, not get frustrated, and go. So hopefully in the next couple of games, they're able to stay out of the penalty box. Some of the penalties have been bad, and there some that you don't need to take. Right off the bat in game number 4 there, you take 2 penalties in the offensive zone immediately, and you're trying to get momentum. And you take 2 offensive zone penalties. One you get scored on. There's no reason for those penalties. And coaches will tell you, Andrew Burnett, they'll tell you, penalties are one thing. Offensive zone penalties drive them nuts when you're in the offensive zone and you take a penalty. So that really last game prevented them from getting off to a good start. So if they get back home, the crowd's going to be buzzing. They need to get off to really that good start. If the Panthers can extend a lead, we saw it when the Marchment got that 3-1 goal in game number 2, extended the lead. Now you really force the Capitals out of their comfort zone, and they start to press, make turnovers, mistakes. So if you can get off to a clean start, maybe get a goal early, add to it in the first period. Then that's how the Panthers kind of imagine it. So looking for better starts as well. They want game number 5, a lot of jump in the building. Let's see if they can get off to a really hot start.
Yeah, and it takes me back to game 1, Billy. I know you were there in the building as well. The energy, like a good hour before the game started in game 1, like reading right up into the puck drop, it was like something I hadn't felt in that building in a really long time. And then what happens? Early penalties, crowd gets sucked out of it. Tom Wilson scores a power play goal, and it never reached. I don't even think it reached that peak level during game 2 with the big 5-1 win. I think hopefully for game 5 tomorrow night at FLA Live Arena, that it's going to have that electric feeling again. And as you just said, this time you need to get off to a faster start. And I think the key, the main thing that they just need to do is stay out of the box. And I mean, I hear what you're saying, that that's what they need to focus on. But as a former player, why is it so hard to like follow? Like you can say to yourself, pound it into your head, I need to stay out of the box. But obviously, you know, it's harder than just, you know, a mental thing, right?
It's somewhat mental, but it just has to be reinforced. It has to be reinforced among the players in the dressing room. It has to be reinforced by the coaching staff. And the more you're processing it through your mind, the more you're in a situation that you're going to try to avoid. So it's something that you can put an onus on yourself as a player. I've been there. I was a player that took bad penalties throughout the course of my career. There was a lot of situations, and I had to learn when there was times to go after it and times to lay back. And in the playoffs, I knew it was critical to try and make sure that some of the plays I made and the situations I put myself in, that I wasn't going to end up in the penalty box. So you're aware of it. It's something that's correctable. It has to be something that you process in your brain like anything else. That if you get chopped in the back of the legs, or if you're on the forecheck, you don't put the stick between someone's legs. You keep your stick on the ice. You don't put it in the midsection. So that's something that's in the players' heads, and that can be easily fixed as long as they're paying attention to it.
I imagine it comes easier for some guys than others in terms of keeping your cool in the moment.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I want to get into a few players in particular, Billy, but before I do, I have to pause real quick and talk about the sponsor of the show, and that is Prize Picks, the official fantasy partner of 5 Reasons Sports. You can check them out at prizepicks.com. Log on to the website or download the free app as well. And remember, when you sign up, you're going to get prompted. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E, and your initial deposit will get matched 100% up to $100. If you put in $100, they'll match it completely, and you'll have $200 to play with. And remember, you can play with it however you want. You don't have to make one big $200 bet. You can make $200 $1 bets if you want to, however you want to do it. And don't worry, this is completely legal in the state of Florida. I've got my own account. I logged on today, and I actually made a couple of picks that I'm going to share with you right now. In the early game, I'm going to take our old friend Vincent Trocheck in the Boston-Carolina game to go over 0.5 points, because he's averaging a point per game in the series and had 3 points in the 2 home games in Carolina. And I'm going to combine that with Austin Matthews going over 0.5 goals. He led the NHL in goals this season. He had 60 of them. He hasn't scored since game 1. Toronto's back at home tonight. So I'm lumping those two as a power play pick, which is going to take my pick 3 times up on my bet. So I bet $10, I'll win 30. And then real quick, my late game pick, I'm staying at the Oilers-Kings game. I've got a goal in the first 8 minutes of the game, either team scoring. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game in Edmonton. I think they're going to get going early. So I've got a goal over 0.5 in the first 8 minutes. And I've also got Connor McDavid going over 1.5. Look, he's a monster in the series. He had multiple points in each of the series' first 3 games. Edmonton's back at home. They just got embarrassed, shut out in game 4. So I'm lumping those two together as a power play pick as well. So that's all happening at prizepicks.com. Remember, you can go onto the website or download the app. And when you do, use that code FIVE to get your deposit matched. Okay. Deep breath, Billy.
Good picks. I like them.
Yeah. Thank you. See, you're a man that it's as much as you know about the Panthers, you keep your eyes on the entire league. You do a great job on the NHL Network also with the analysis, man. So hearing you tell me I have good picks makes me feel like I might make a little bit of money tonight.
Well, Austin Matthews off the score sheet goal-wise for 3 games, that's bound end. It just
right.
I mean, that seems very reasonable. And then a shutout for the LA Kings last game, Edmonton going back home. 2 games before that, Edmonton scored 14 goals in the previous 2 games, and Connor McDavid
Yes.
going back on home ice, trying to keep him off the score sheet and Draisaitl for a couple of games in a row. Good luck to LA in that category. So,
Right. Taking the over in that one might be a good idea as well.
Yeah, it seems so. Well, those seems like pretty good picks.
No, I appreciate that. A couple of other really good picks that were made by the Panthers once upon a time, Jonathan Huberto and Sasha Barkov, as I dive into the segue right there. Neither of them have really blown up in the series. They both have 3 points through the 4 games. They both have got a pretty good amount of shots. Barkov has 15 shots. Huberto has 12 shots. But neither of them have really had a big game to this point. And yet the Panthers, they're still right where they are, tied 2-2 going into the best of 3 with the home ice advantage and all that. You have to think just, as you're just kind of alluding to with Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid, that Barkov and Huberto are eventually going to break through in this series and really jump out in the score sheet sometime soon.
You would like to see that. You've watched what's happened with them, and they've had their moments in this series. But as far as just having that big time explosion come from Barkov or Huberto, just quite hasn't happened, and that's kind of the Capitals style. And what I would say most is hampering that is I would go directly to the power play. When you don't have power play success in those guys, and if you're able to get some power play goals and touches, just look at the Boston series, and you looked at Marchand and Pasternak and Bergeron. They weren't good in Carolina in the first couple of games. All of a sudden, that power play got going for Boston, and those guys got touches and started to feel good about their game and started to feel good about what's happening. And all of a sudden, that bleeds over into your 5-on-5 play. If you get some, it seems funny, but if you just get a meaningless second assist on the power play, where you just dump it down low and maybe a guy takes a point shot in a redirection, and all of a sudden, but the psyche, it kind of loosens up, or something just bounces off your shin pad and it goes into the net. It can totally change your mindset as a player and kind of move forward. And especially if it happens early on in a game, if you're able to get on that score sheet right off the bat in the first 5-10 minutes of a game, kind of loosens you up for the rest of the game. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. You're talking about the starts, but I'm looking for Huberto and Barkov to really come out and just fly and just have that extra gear and that tempo and that enthusiasm in their eyes. And if you can see that, then maybe they're going to be on the verge of a breakout game. So their play to me has been spotty at best. So that's what this Panther group, if those guys are able to really snap out and put up the points and the numbers that we've become accustomed to, that will get the Capitals back on their heels and kind of reeling.
Yeah, I obviously have to agree with you in there. Another guy who maybe playing not his best at this point yet, Erin Ekblad. He's a point per game so far after his 2 assists last night, Billy. But I don't know. He seems to me at times a little tentative, not his usual aggressive, confident self. But still, obviously, he's better than most guys, even at 80%. But what's been your take on him through the first 4 games of the series?
Well, it's tough to come back after that long of an injury into the regular season. It becomes even that much more tougher into the postseason, because the regular season, and then when you go to the postseason, the speed and intensity and the pace is way different. It's so much faster, so much quicker. Everything's happening at such a high speed, and you're trying to adjust. And Ekblad is just trying to get. This is 4 games back from a lengthy injury, and 2, we don't know how. No one's going to tell you how that ankle actually feels. Only Ekblad knows, and people in that room. But it's never going to come out to us if it's 100%. He looks like he's skating well and moving well, and that it's not much of an issue. But there still could be some pain in that ankle and discomfort. And if there is some discomfort in there, it can affect you mentally as how you're moving on the ice. But coming back, it's just getting up to speed. And the couple assists last game, expect him to get better and better as these playoffs hopefully roll on, right, especially in this series, and just get up. But it's a long time injury for him to come back from. And the ankle injury, it prevents you from skating. If you have an arm or something or a wrist injury that you're allowed to skate and keep your conditioning up, then it's easier to come back. But he had to let the ankle just heal before he could actually put the skates on. And then when he initially got on the ice, the skating was limited, just trying to get the ankle to fit in the boot before he could get going and get into the conditioning part of it. So the conditioning part of it too, he's probably still trying to get his wind back, playing 24 minutes the first night and playing up around 24, 25 minutes a night. The conditioning will come back, but the recovery time, when you're not fully in that game shape, when you are 82 games, the recovery just doesn't happen as quickly as it would normally have. So that's where to me, the conditioning's probably coming back quicker and better and faster too. So that's what you're hoping with Erin Ekblad too, is that the conditioning is starting to get back into his body and the recovery will happen quicker and the ankle's getting stronger and better and the movement will get better. So it's been okay from his part, but I would expect better and bigger things as we move on in these playoffs from Ekblad.
Yeah, I guess the best thing for Ekblad that the Panthers could give him is time. The more time, the longer they play, the better opportunity he'll have to get better or back to his usual self.
Mm-hmm.
A guy who has not looked like his usual self, and I see the guys in the chat have been asking us to bring him up. Don't worry, guys, he's on my list. Anthony Duclair. We've seen his ice time go down in each of the 4 games, dropping down to a team low 948 last night in Game 4, half of which was time that he spent on the power play. Why is he struggling so much in this series? What's going on with Anthony Duclair?
Duclair likes to play a speed game. He likes to go. He likes to open it up, and he likes to have room and space and to get out and fly down the wing, have the puck, make an impact. But the way the Capitals have played and clogged up the neutral zone, the speed hasn't been there. And you have to be able to make adjustments. Then you have to be able to be heavy on the forecheck, win 50-50 puck battles, get the puck out on the wall, pay attention defensively. And that's where Duclair, if you look over the history of him as a player, that's maybe the one knock on him, is when games get physical and watered down, does he get in there and separate players from the puck and win 50-50 puck battles? And that hasn't been there from Duclair in the series. So he's got to be able to change that mindset of it's the speed, the opportunities through the middle of the ice don't look like they're going to be available. So you're going to have to, if you watch a player like Marchment play, where he goes in, he's heavy on the forecheck, he separates people from the puck, he gets to the front of the net, gets to traffic areas, tips pucks, gets around, battles with defensemen. That's what you want to see from Duclair now, is engaging in the battles, winning forechecks, separating people from the puck because he's got the speed to do it. So to me, it just hasn't been there from Duclair, and Andrew Burnett and the coaching staff is seeing the same thing. So to him, it has to be more engaged. He has to be more engaged as far as the all around game, knowing that maybe the breakaways and the speed game's not there. You got to be able to adjust and play a different style in the playoffs. And if you can't do that, then the ice time's going to come down for him. He has to have more of an impact, and the coaching staff has to see that. If the coaching staff doesn't see that, then they're going to roll with the players that are playing good and giving themselves a chance and an opportunity. He'll continue to get his chances, but if it's not there and not going, you're going to see him get that ice time cut, and that's the bottom line. You have to be productive in the playoffs at this time of year, and Duclair, it hasn't, and that's one guy the Panthers would love to see some productivity from. So we'll see what happens, but he'll keep getting his chances, and as the game goes on, the coaches just evaluate how the game's going, and if they see a player's going and he's hot, then he's going to get the ice time. So Duclair's got to get going in the first period and really show you something. Then the coach is going to say, okay, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I want from you. Then you'll get more ice time and you'll be able to build on it.
Now, we've been having such an awesome chat, and I just looked up at the clock. I don't want to keep you for too much longer, so I was going to bring up Sergei Bobrovsky, but he's been amazing. We know he's been amazing. We don't have to dive too much into that, so I'm just going to scroll past that part of it. We can just both acknowledge that Bob has been probably the best we've seen of him in a Panthers sweater to this point, at this juncture. Right? Agreed?
Yeah, he's been everything and more. He's been dialed
Yep.
in. So we're getting the goaltending, which is a huge, huge factor. Confidence is there and making the saves, and that really is infectious on the bench when your goaltender's playing like that. It gives your team a lot of belief. Believe me, I've been there with Van Beesbrook back in the day. When your goaltender makes,
Yes, sir.
It just filters through your whole bench that our goaltenders got our back.
Now, I do want to ask you about, the more controversial thing that happened last night, which was the TJ Oshie hit on Sam Bennett. The refs did not call a penalty on the play. The league is not, taking any action. So it's been viewed as, while it was a pretty violent looking check, you can see in that photo there, it looks like his arm's hitting him in the chest at the same time that his shoulder's going into his face. Either way, Billy, I think kind of what I'm taking from it, trying to take a positive from it, is that Bennett's okay. And that the discussion on the bench and what Bruno said after the game was the team got so energized by Bennett just popping up and going back out there and doing what he does, that even though that there was no penalty, Washington scored to take the lead. The Panthers were so energized by that they just did what they do all season. They did the comeback cats thing. They scored to tie it. They won in overtime. I think that is that's what you have to take from this, right? Like, you can stew about, not getting a penalty or whatever, but at the end result is you won and it made your team maybe better. Am I wrong for trying to take that from this?
That's a perfect response from the Panthers. That's the kind of response that you want, instead of some of the responses that we've gotten where you've gone out and taken frustration and taken penalties. Well, if there's a big hit and someone gets blasted, you see that and you use your anger in the right way. Use it and get out there and put some fire in your game and go the other way and challenge them. And that picture that you just showed of TJ Oshie hitting Sam Bennett there. So if you got that picture, if you're player safety, and if I was on player safety and I'm reviewing this, the angles I'm looking at, I'm paying attention. Are his skates off the ice? No. Is his elbow and shoulder extended from his body? No. It's up a little high? Is the head the main contact point? Probably. Yes. But until you say that any hit to the head is automatically a penalty, then those kind of hits that's why you see player safety, that exact angle. How else would you describe, how else would you want TJ Oshie, if you were Sam Bennett on the Panthers side and you looked at that replay and saw the player skates on the ice and the shoulder and arm next to his body, what would your complaint be if you were a Panther fan giving that hit? I know it's controversial, and it is, but it was a big hit, and they got up and they scored, and it was a hit to the head. But that the rules don't state that they're looking whether it was a violent, intentional, leaving your skates, right, elevating your arm, putting it in. So that's why you didn't see the fine or the suspension, in my opinion. And I've played the game, and to me, hitting's always a part of it. You skate through the middle with your head down and get caught in a situation like that, then sometimes you're going to take the brunt of it. So as much as you want to fine and suspension, just move on from it. And to me, in playoffs, the critical thing, you hear it from fans all the time, and the refs were bad. They screwed us tonight. That should have been a penalty. That should have been a 5-minute major. Yeah, if you flip the script in the dressing room, if you're ever using refs or calls as excuses, you're done. I mean, the fan base can argue all they want on both sides about the refereeing and the calls made. But the players in the dressing room, if you ever use that as an excuse, you're done. You might as well just stop right now, because Yeah, it's just total nonsense.
You're right.
Players, if you start arguing, oh, that should have been a penalty and we should have won the game because of that, or that trip shouldn't have happened. There's so much going on, and the refs are evaluated every game, and only the best referees and linesmen make it to the playoffs, and only the best referees and linesmen are going to make it to the second round, and they get whittled down until the ones that perform the best and get evaluated the best make the finals. So they're not out there trying to skew it one way or the other. They're trying to do their best because they're like the players. They want to move on to the next round.
I'm not saying would never say or think that the officials are skewing anything one way or another, but I'm also not going to say that it hasn't been questionable officiating throughout this series as a whole. The Oshie hit notwithstanding, I'm not ready to just, say it's been all good either.
Yeah.
But,
and I saw the one comment just come out said, yeah, but Trocheck was tripped. Yeah. So he was tripped. Who cares? Who remembers? Panther fans remember, but it wasn't called. Just why are you in that situation? Why are you down? Why are you tied? Why haven't you done more before that? That's why don't you have a bigger lead? So you're tripped in the wrong. To me, if you ever make excuses to the referees, you're going down the wrong road. It's just the wrong road.
Yeah.
To ever have that. Every fan base is like, oh, we got screwed, or the Capitals, the referees are terrible. That's just a conversation I will never get involved in, and I will. It's absolutely nonsense and baloney because it's on both teams, and the refs are trying to do their best job and work it out. And calls are going to go against you, and you're going to get some calls go your way as well. Hopefully evens out.
My first junior coach, Billy, taught us it's a lesson that stuck with me from when I was 18 years old. We're bitching and moaning in the locker room about the officiating, and he just started screaming at us, shut the bleep up. You're never going to meet a referee that you like. If you don't like it, go score more goals.
Yeah, do something.
It always stuck with me.
Yeah, don't put yourself in this situation. Do something before it, right? Yeah. Right. So that's always interesting when I hear everyone blames. You just look down on every Twitter account on every team, and after every loss, every team is blaming the ref. It's always on the ref. Everything's blamed on it. No, leave that alone. Just go out, play the game, win the hockey game, and that's the mindset you definitely have to have in the dressing room as a player. Just the refs are going to make their calls, and whatever happens, you adjust. And that's perfectly to your point what you said about Sam Bennett and the response the Panthers had. Okay, right. Big hit. Maybe you thought it should have been a penalty, should have been a discussion. So it didn't happen. What are you going to do about it? Okay, we're going to get fired up. We're going to go score a tying goal, and we're going to go win it in overtime.
Right.
There's the reaction you get from it. So, and then you win the game. That puts it to bed pretty quick. So
yes.
Yeah. So instead of letting it bring you down or do something about it, then go out and change your mindset and go out and score a goal or get angry. If it's a bad penalty kill or a bad penalty on you and you don't like it, go kill the penalty. Get momentum on your side. Use it to your advantage and go from there. So that's my take on refereeing and suspensions and all that. Is that the players are trying to do their best, and they are honestly trying to do their best. It's honest. There's human error, but the referees. I played in Europe, in Germany, and you want to talk about a drop off in officiating. The officiating over in Europe, it would make your mind, after coming from the NHL, once you go to the lower levels and see how bad refereeing can really be, it'll make your head spin. So you're lucky you have these referees, because in Germany, when I was over there with the refs, I was like, just the stuff and the penalties they called, it blew my mind how bad it was. So
that's why they have beer in the press box in Europe, because they want to keep the media from talking about that stuff.
Yeah, these guys are the best in the world, and they're doing their best.
Well, I think that's a great spot to end the show. talking about taking something positive from last night's game, because I think right now the Panthers have, the momentum is on their side. They played their best game of the series, and now they're going home for a pivotal game 5, and looks like they're in the best shape they could be in, considering the way the series started. So, Billy, thank you so much for taking some time and joining me today. I really appreciate it, man, and look forward to hearing you on the call tomorrow night, game 5.
Yep, we'll be there. Be flying home tomorrow morning early, so looking forward to it. Awesome.
So thank you to Billy, and thank you to my amazing producer who you do not see, Manny Chang, doing all the right things, pushing all the buttons behind the scenes. Manny, you are the best. I know I tell you that all the time, but it's because I mean it. I love you, buddy. And thank you to everybody who's been watching. The comments have been going crazy today. So that's been really cool. I see you, Noah. I know you're always around, buddy. It's much appreciated. Kyle, Manny, I know you're back there too. All you guys, thank you so much for chiming in, for watching, commenting, tweeting. That's all good. So yeah, until next time, hopefully next week when we do this, well, I guess game 7 would be Sunday if it goes that deep. So yeah, next time we do this, be either really happy or not so much. So fingers crossed that it goes well. But until next time, guys, thanks again for joining the Odd Man Rush on 5 Reasons channel, YouTube channel, brought to you by Prize Picks. David Dwork signing off. As always, you guys know what it is. Stay cool.